it's me, Alexa, and today we're going to be reviewing the 2016 action Tamil film, Theri. So, I made a recent video where I reacted to a birthday mashup for Vijay. I did watch this movie on June 30th, so I did watch my first Vijay video in June. This review is just late, but you guys left a whole bunch of recommendations for me for different movies to watch. This was the second most requested. The first most requested was Thalapathy, but sadly the only version of that I could find was a Telugu dub one, and I didn't want to react to a dubbed version, especially for my first, specifically trying to watch a Vijay movie and then try and watch a review one where it's not actually his voice doing it. I didn't think that would be very good, so I then went to see what the second most requested one, and it was Theri, so I went with this because I was able to find it in the original Tamil. Theri is directed by Theri Kumar and stars Thalapathy Vijay, as well as Samantha Akkaneni and Amy Jackson, as well as many other amazingly talented people. Really quick before we jump in, this is 1000% a spoiler review. I'm going to give in all the spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, I recommend you watch it before watching this if you have any interest in not being told pretty much the entire story. So go do that because I'm gonna massively spoil it. So fair warning. The film was overall pretty good. I do have some complaints with it, but overall it was just kind of a fun Moss film, you know? It wasn't anything too spectacular. It felt pretty kind of generic. It had a nice story. It had a good message that they were trying to do, and the acting was good. There's one scene that I have a lot of complaints with, and that took me out of the movie because it was closer to the end of the film. We're gonna talk all about that in a bit. And then I also have a few other just tiny issues with the film that I want to talk about, just little things I noticed that bug me, and so now I'm gonna tell you guys. My overall opinion of the movie is pretty neutral, a little bit leaning towards positive about some aspects, but then going a little bit negative about other aspects, but I do think it overall leans towards positive, my opinion, but it is more in that neutral zone, definitely. Alright, so the movie, of course, is about Vijay. He's living with his daughter, Nivi, who is played by baby Nainika, and so they live together, and he kind of starts flirting with a teacher, who's played by Amy Jackson. They have a nice little romance. We definitely start to get some hints that he has a past. There's definitely something going on in their history. And so we then develop to learn that he is actually a cop who had to go kind of undercover, kind of disappear because there are people who are out trying to kill him. And they had assumed that he was dead due to the big explosion. That's the scene we're going to talk about the most. That's the scene that has the most issues for me. So we'll talk about that probably the longest out of everything we talk about. So the big explosion, they think he's dead, so he's off hiding with his daughter to save her life as well as his own. And his friend is also with him, who is played by Rajendran. Yes, Rajendran, that's what it says his name is. He's also out with him. They kind of own a bakery. It's very sweet. That part of it, then when you learn the history, it's a little more sadder. So the reason that someone's after him is because he messed with a high politician who is played by Mahendran, and so the politician's son had raped a girl, and Vijay discovered that and decided to kill him really brutally, which we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit as well. And then so that's is what it is. Killed him. He definitely deserved to be punished 1000% for what he did to this woman. Oh my word, it was atrocious. That was, we'll talk about that scene a little bit too whenever we discover what happened to the woman. But so he then tells the guy that he killed him pretty much in this really brutal way though. He could have easily just not said anything, and then nothing would have happened. That feels like such a silly reason to be the thing that drives your entire plot, was him telling someone, hey, so the cop the person just read to you exactly how your son died, and it was this horrible, brutal way. I did it. But don't mess with me or do anything to me. You're just a really powerful politician who can get away with stuff. But I'm gonna tell you anyways that I killed your son really brutally. What? That doesn't seem like the smart thing to do. But, so, that in itself I had a little bit of an issue with, but my biggest issue was, in that scene where he told him, the cinematography was this revolving shot, just constantly spinning so much, and it was moving so fast, it genuinely gave me a bit of a headache. It lasted so long. I do not like that style of cinematography in general. I think that you can use a little bit of it shortly, and it can have a good impact. Whenever you do it for that long, it just becomes dizzying. It loses all effect for me. I really dislike that cinematography technique, and when used that long, I think you can use it briefly to create some movement and dynamic in your shot and like kind of create that feel. But if once you use it too long, if you're not trying to make your audience feel dizzy, which was not the intent of this scene, you shouldn't be using it for that long. I just don't think so at all. All right, so now we're gonna say something a little more positive. I think overall the acting was quite good. I thought Vijay did a really good job with his role. Nothing was too stand out. Like, I don't think anyone did like an exceptionally amazing job at their roles, but they all played their roles really well, and it was enjoyable to watch in that regard. And so that was always fun. And they all did a really good job, I felt, in the dancing. The one thing I noticed about Vijay when watching his songs in the whole movie, in this movie, again, I've seen other songs where he's not quite, where this isn't as really an issue, but I noticed it a lot when watching it in this movie. I was constantly distracted by the background dancers, and that doesn't normally happen to me. I always normally I feel like I'm always captured by the lead dancer whenever I'm watching these songs, pretty much always. Like, it's hard for me to think of a time where I notice the background dancers besides when I force myself to, or they have like a moment featuring them. But I constantly found myself distracted by them. He wasn't drawing my attention very much to his part, which was just interesting, something I just noticed. About like an hour and a half into this movie, roughly, it's a long scene, we learn what happened to Samantha's character, who is of course Vijay's ex-wife, or late wife rather, and Nivi's mother. And so, because of the fact that Vijay had brutally murdered this politician's son and told him about it, the guy wanted revenge, came to his house to kill him, his family, and his daughter, to get revenge. Like, you killed my son, you killed my family, I'm gonna kill your family. So that's what he does. And so he's having a nice conversation with Samantha. The mother had taken the daughter upstairs, and all of a sudden, and it was really jarring, the Samantha just got shot, and I enjoyed how jarring that was. I thought that was impactful, and it was like, oh wow, okay, because it was a big tonal shift, and I did enjoy how that came about. But she then fell to the ground like she was dead, but she was shot in a way that would not have killed her, which, you know, it doesn't, as we learned momentarily. But why was she so unconscious? Unless she hit her head really hard, but in which case she should also have blood coming out of her head. I kind of have a little bit of issue with that. I can kind of write it off because maybe she just hit her head but didn't break it, you know, and so she's not bleeding, but she hit it where she's just kind of unconscious from the shock. You know, you can make an argument, I guess, for that. I don't know enough about how getting shot in the stomach works, but I do not believe that it would knock you out like that. But anyways, we move along. She wasn't dead, and that was the big thing. I was like, how is she dead from that? She should be slowly bleeding out, but then she wasn't dead, and she did slowly bleed out. So then Vijay goes over, and he gets beat up. The Mahendran's character goes upstairs to kill his mother and daughter, shoots the mother. The mother opens the door, though, and is surprised that they're there. Like, did she not hear the previous gunshot and window breaking downstairs that killed her daughter-in-law? It's like, I feel like if you would hear if the window broke on your first floor. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like she should have heard that. But anyways, so she opens the door and is very surprised that there's anything dangerous going on. They shoot her right away, and then the guy goes to kill the daughter, and I'm not gonna lie, this moment I was like, no, oh no, you better not shoot this baby. I knew he definitely didn't, because I was like, is Nivi, and she's obviously later on, but I was just like, how dare you even point a gun to a baby's head? That very upset me. And she was so cute too, like her eyes and her cheeks, oh my word. But anyways, he then proceeds to try and drown her, so much better. It's just very brutal in that sense. It really showing you who the bad guy is here. And then they leave, and Samantha wakes up, she crawls upstairs to grab her daughter, crawls back down. Throughout this, we presume kind of that she's bled out too much, so she can't go outside. She's like waking up Vijay to get him to take the daughter and go, because he's still mostly alive. But, so they have a nice moment. But right before they have this moment, they show you the time on the bomb. And so there's exactly, I noticed that this was too long whenever I watched it, because it felt too long, so I went back to see if I was right or not, and that's why I have the exact time. So at 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 44 seconds on the timestamp of the one on Amazon Prime, it shows in the clock, well, it shows that it's 1:47, it quickly switches to 1:46, so we're gonna call it 1:46. Like 1 minute and 46 seconds left, that is. And then, it doesn't show the timer again until 1 hour, 49 minutes and 2 seconds, where it says that there is still 7 seconds left. So that means that only 1 minute and 39 seconds have passed, but it has been a total of 2 minutes and 18 seconds on screen. Now I know this is super nitpicky, but it really bothers me because that's such an easy fix. Just change the first time. Like, you could one, just get a close-up of a microwave, you know, again. It's not like it was a really like dynamic shot, it was just a shot of a microwave. Or you can edit that, like put a mask over it and re-change the numbers, like use a different, like you can change the numbers really easily. And so it really bothered me that they just left it being this inconsistent because it's such an easy thing to fix. And then though, those last 7 seconds, they go through all 7 seconds, and I kid you not, a little over 2 seconds of the movie. So they just really had no regard for the timing of the microwave, which I would be fine with that final one, but also why didn't they just start it at 3 seconds then? So it's like 3, 2, 1, and it's pretty much 2 seconds as well. Anyways, but so that just kind of irked me because they made a point of like purposely showing you the time left, and then they just didn't care about the amount of time left. Because like, it would have been so easy to change the time to say 2 minutes, 18 seconds. And if you had done that, then that would have been like, oh, that's really cool. You're paying attention to it. You know, you're doing it, you know, you're really just focusing on those little details. But this movie just didn't seem to care about those little details. And I noticed it a lot because there's a few other continuity errors I noticed, and I'm sure that there's some I missed, and I'm not even going to talk about all the ones I noticed in this. I'm going to talk about a few of the bigger ones I noticed. Yeah, so that just kind of bothered me. And then Samantha dies there instead of being able to crawl outside, which again, maybe she lost too much blood. I think she should have been able to crawl outside. But also though, he's just standing up, and then we see there's 7 seconds, and there's no way that Vijay got out fast enough to not explode when he was that injured. But they really don't care about the time correlation apparently in this scene, which bothers me. May not bother everyone, but that really bothers me in a scene, because why are you gonna purposefully show me this time and then not follow it? Overall, the cinematography I think was pretty well done, nothing too flashy. I didn't like the one shot, as I said before, with the circling, but besides that, nothing that really caught my eye as being terrible. There's a few nice shots, and just overall, it's just very simple, well done. The songs overall were pretty fun, like the individual actual songs, but the background music was often way too overdramatic. This is where we're going to quickly talk about the scene where we learn about the girl who was raped. As they're telling us about what happened to her and showing us the different faces with tears on their one, I think it was a bit too fast cut between these tears, and while I get what they're trying to show how everyone was affected, I think it would have been more impactful to have maybe a shot that shows everyone and that you can see the tears falling down their faces, but I know that's harder to get, so I'm not going to complain about that too much. But the background music was so over dramatic that it just kind of made it feel cheesy when it needed to feel serious and real. And that was the issue. It needed to feel real and raw. Because, I mean, it still had its shock value. I still got a little teary-eyed hearing it because I was just like, that poor woman, like, that's, oh, I mean, it's just atrocious. And the thing that happens to real women, it's just, I mean, it's just horrible. Happens to real women across the whole world, you know? And it's just absolutely terrible. And so that made me a little emotional because I empathizing with another human being. But the background music was just so bombastic, and it was just did not need to be that. If it was just a nice, like, kind of subtle background music, it would have been a lot more impactful. But instead, they tried to like turn it up a bunch of notches and make it cheesy while talking about this very serious, real issue. And so it kind of drew away from the real feel of it, in my opinion. And that was an issue at a few other times too, where the background music was just a bit too over dramatic. Other times it fit better, like during fights, you know, things like that. But then it was just often just a bit too over dramatic, which I know this was also like a Moss film, so that's one of the things of it. But that's why I'm only going to specifically talk about the scene where they talk about her rape, because that was a really serious scene, and it needed, I think, to not have had such over dramatic music to it. I think it would have been a lot more impactful. All right, so we're gonna do this one big thing of negatives, and I think I have only positive and neutral things left to say. I'm trying to go through this pretty fast. I'm sorry, this is already taking too long. All my reviews take too long, but anyways, okay. Continuity errors, I have them listed so I don't forget. I'm gonna list 4, so we aren't going too long. So 1, at the very beginning, whenever they have that, whenever they're running late for school and they have that kind of like bike chase, there is so much continuity where the different shot variants, like they'll have a shot of the truck from the front, like the car, and there's like bikes seemingly right behind it, and then they'll cut to a wide overhead, like the wide overhead shot that they use a few times, and there's no other cars anywhere in the street. Now it's just a continual issue, and I know that that's really hard to do, to get that continuity there, but like at least make it close. You know, like maybe have the trucks, like the bikes are like this in one shot and then the other shot this one's ahead, you know, like to have small differences like that, but to just have them not even there made it so just unrealistic. And I know it's a movie, so I get it, but like it just, the little things like that bother me because they're things that could have easily been fixed and they just didn't put forth that extra effort to do so, and that bothers me. Another one is whenever he is in the school beating up those guys who like slept in the room, he has his little stick that he uses, and at one point in it he's like talking to them all, like doing the, I believe it was when he was doing the questions. And so there's another time is whenever he's in the loud car. Okay. Another time is whenever he's in the classroom trying to get the thugs out who'd like slept there overnight. He has a stick in his hand at one point. He has it at multiple points. At one point he has a book in one hand and the stick in the other. And he snaps at someone. So there's little things like that, which again, these are all nitpicky because they're continuity errors, and continuity errors are like always a bit nitpicky, but there's so many of them in this movie that it bothered me, and I feel like they're important to mention. Another one, which this one, it was done in post, because it's whenever Vijay is first meeting Samantha's father and the bullet comes in the door. So the guy shoots the bullet and it comes in and it curves to hit the cup. So the guy, like, he curved his bullet, and that's just not how bullets work. I don't know where that went wrong. Just when filming, they thought it was pointing straight at it. And so that was a little irksome to me, because I was like, why have this visible curve that, like, and, like, they spent so long showing it for it to be, like, an impossible bullet movement. And then finally, I'm only gonna do one more. Actually, quickly though, while I'm talking about that coffee scene, I do have another point about it. At the beginning of that scene, whenever Vijay comes in, he like makes that joke about the dad's name, and I felt that that was pretty out of character. He never acted like that any other point in the film or made jokes like that at any other point in the film, so I was confused as to why that was thrown in. If that's like a reference to something maybe, but it just felt really out of character for him to do it in that way. But back to one final continuity error. So in the like big final fight scene, you know, he has this like kind of gear looking thing that he uses and he hits someone over the head with it, and he very clearly hits them with the inside of it. And then it cuts a shot of him from the side, outside, and the outside of it is covered in blood, which, okay, you can kind of maybe argue that spray, I guess. But then they show the inside, and there's no blood on the inside, and that's the side that he hit the guy with. There's a lot of those little small issues which bother me as a filmmaker, because it's just like, take the time and effort to know what you're making, and like, don't, like, because all these things could have been so easily fixed, every single one of these, and they just didn't. They didn't take that extra time, and they didn't take that extra care to put it into this film. And it's like, films are such an amazing thing to make, and I love making them so much, and I couldn't imagine purposefully leaving like such blatant continuity errors in it. That would bother me, like, if I did that in one of my movies. And so it's just interesting. It's just a small thing that I can excuse a few. Like, sometimes they happen, continuity errors, you know, and sometimes you don't notice them. Like, you're watching the same footage over and over again. It gets hard. You kind of disassociate a few things. But there were so many of them that I couldn't do this review without mentioning it, because there was definitely an issue there. Because they had to have noticed at least some of those and made the conscious effort to say, oh, it's okay, no one will notice. And that bothers me. Alright, final couple things. I think that the movie was well paced overall with the editing. It flowed pretty well. I would have maybe done a few things slightly differently, like ordering wise, but I think that it overall did a good job and had some nice moments. Oh, I guess I have one more negative thing to say. I didn't care for the fact that, so, you know, he kills the son and hangs him, and then he ends up killing a few more people, and he always hangs them by their feet and like attacks them really brutally and kills them. And that kind of bothered me, because like, that's a really brutal way to kill someone. And then to not only do that, but he has like a signature, almost like a serial killer, and he's supposed to be our good guy character, but he literally has like his behaviors are that of a serial killer. That just kind of took me out trying to root for him a few times. I still did, because his relationship with his daughter and with Amy and Samantha, I mean, there was still a lot of stuff in his mother's death, you know, all that. I still rooted for him, but like every time that happened, I was just like, whoa, bro, like, chill a bit. You're a cop. Like, you don't gotta be hanging people by their feet, you know? Even if they definitely might have deserved it, like the guy who raped the person, it still just is so brutal. and serial killery that I was not a huge fan that they'd make that choice for our lead hero character. That is, of course, a 1000% personal opinion about it. I did really enjoy, though, the fun, like, kind of ghost cop thing they had at the end where people were like, is he real? Is he dead? Is he alive? I thought that was a really cool concept and they handled it pretty well. They had a nice, like, little horror segment in the middle there. That was pretty fun, I thought, and well done. And then there's also the one thing, they're at, like, the construction site and there's a fight sequence there beforehand, and, like, kind of at the beginning of it, the goon, or, like, thugs and stuff are kind of like, is he real? Like, discussing whether or not he's real, and that gave me kind of, like, Batman vibe. That's not a bad thing at all, definitely. I mean, Batman's amazing, so I understand pulling inspiration from that, and they did make it their own with the whole concept of it, with the ghost cop of it, but I thought that was an interesting comparison that I noticed that you all might also find interesting. Overall, I think that it was pretty fun concepts that could have been executed better. And that is why, and here we are guys, the official rating on the shark meter, because I finally put out my video explaining the shark meter, finally. So the official rating on the shark meter is basking shark. If you want to go take a look at what that means, you can click on the link in the below if you haven't seen the video where I explain it all. Let me know in the comments down below which category you think it should be in. Do you think it should be a hammerhead shark or something else? You know, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below, and also let me know your opinions on the movie and your opinions on my opinions, and let's have some discussions about movies, guys. I love it. All right. So that is all I have to say about the Theri movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, and I hope you all are staying safe out there and have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!